The envelope arrived on a Tuesday in late autumn, when the ginkgo leaves in Chongqing's old quarter had turned the color of faded gold. It was unassuming, plain white, no return address, the kind that usually carried utility bills or wedding invitations. The school's bursar, Mrs. Liu, slid it open with a letter opener shaped like a tiny sword, expecting nothing more than a parent's late tuition. Instead, a single sheet of thick paper unfolded, and a cashier's check fluttered onto the desk like a wounded bird. 2 million renminbi. The note was handwritten in ink the color of midnight. For the children who dream beyond these walls. Let the library breathe. Let the music room sing. Mrs. Liu's breath caught. She had seen that handwriting before, on a poster tucked away in the staff lounge, a relic from 2019 when the entire school had lost its collective mind over the untamed. The looping elegance of the character for dream, the decisive slash through the final stroke of sing. It was unmistakable. She pressed the paper to her chest, heart racing like a schoolgirl's, and ran to find the principal. By evening, the news had trickled through the faculty WeChat group like warm tea on a cold night. "It's him," the art teacher typed, attaching a blurry photo of the note. "Wang Yibo." He used Lan Wangji's name. Someone added a crying emoji. Someone else posted the original drama poster for comparison. The loops matched. The slant matched. The quiet thunder of the gesture matched the man himself. But the story didn't begin with the envelope. It began 3 years earlier, in the hush of a hospital corridor in Beijing, where fluorescent lights buzzed like trapped cicadas. Zhan sat on a plastic chair, knees drawn to his chest, staring at the linoleum floor as if it held the answers to questions he hadn't dared ask aloud. His mother had called that morning. His father's old school in Chongqing was closing the library. Budget cuts. The building itself was crumbling. The books smelled of mildew and lost summers. "It's where you learn to read," she'd said, voice cracking over the line. "Where you first drew Wei Wuxian in the margins of your math notebook." Zhan had promised to help. He always promised. But his own schedule was a guillotine, endless shoots, endorsements, the weight of a comeback still fragile as rice paper. He wired what he could, anonymously, through his studio. It wasn't enough. The library needed a heart transplant, not a band-aid. Across the city, Wang Yibo was filming a motorcycle stunt that required him to leap a burning barrier at 120 kilometers per hour. Between takes, he scrolled through his private account, the one with no profile picture, no followers, just a locked vault of screenshots. One of them was a photo Zhan had posted years ago, a grainy shot of his childhood school gate, captioned simply, "Home." Yibo had saved it the way other people save love letters. He didn't tell anyone. Not his manager, not his stylist, not even the stray cat that visited his balcony every dawn. He opened a new bank account under the name Lan Wang, transferred the money he'd earned from a single luxury watch campaign, and wrote the note on stationery he'd bought in a quiet Kyoto shop during a rare day off. The pen felt heavier than any trophy. He mailed it from a tiny post office near the Summer Palace, wearing a fisherman's hat pulled low and a mask that smelled faintly of engine oil. The clerk barely glanced up. Yibo's hands shook as he slid the envelope across the counter. He told himself it was the cold. Back in Chongqing, the money worked miracles. Contractors arrived with blueprints and optimism. The library's roof, which had leaked like a grieving widow every monsoon, was replaced with cedar beams that smelled of childhood forests. Shelves rose like ribs around a new heart, floor to ceiling, painted the soft blue of a robin's egg. A music room bloomed adjacent, its walls lined with soundproof foam the color of dawn. Instruments arrived in padded cases. A grand piano that gleamed like a sleeping whale, violins with wood still singing from the trees they'd once been, a guzheng whose strings trembled at the slightest breath. The children didn't know who to thank. The staff decided to keep the secret, but secrets in small towns are like snowflakes, they melt into gossip the moment they touch tongues. By winter, every student knew a mysterious lawn had saved their dreams. They began leaving origami cranes on the new piano lid, each one inscribed with a wish. Asterisk, I want to be an astronaut. I want to write songs. I want to go to university. Asterisk. One girl, 12 years old with braids like black waterfalls, wrote, Thank you for believing we matter. She tucked it beneath the fallboard where the keys met in perfect ivory rows. The note stayed there, fluttering whenever someone played Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat. Zhan found out on a January night when the snow in Beijing fell thick as forgiveness. He was in his apartment, wrapped in a blanket that still smelled faintly of the jasmine candles he burned when insomnia struck. His phone buzzed with a message from his mother, a video. In it, children in red scarves sang a clumsy but earnest rendition of Wu Ji, the untamed theme, in the newly christened lawn library. The camera panned to a plaque on the wall. In grateful memory of quiet kindness. Zhan's knees buckled. He sank to the floor, phone clutched to his chest, and cried the way he hadn't since the boycott years, ugly, wrenching sobs that tasted of salt and relief. He knew that all. He knew the curve of every stroke. He didn't call Yibo. Some gifts are too sacred for thank yous spoken aloud. Instead, he flew to Chongqing the next morning, unannounced, wearing a knit cap pulled over his eyes and a coat 2 sizes too big. The school was on holiday break, the hallways echoing with absence. He slipped into the library like a thief returning stolen time. The air smelled of new wood and possibility. He ran his fingers over the spines of books he'd once checked out as a boy, Journey to the West *, Andersen's Fairy Tales, a dog-eared copy of The Little Prince with his own childish scrawl in the margins. Foxes are important. On the piano, the origami cranes had multiplied into a paper flock. He lifted the fallboard and found the girl's note. His throat closed. Behind him, the door creaked. He turned, expecting a janitor, and saw Yibo instead, hoodie zipped to his chin, eyes red from a red-eye flight, snow melting in his hair like misplaced stars. They stared across the polished floor, the space between them humming with 5 years of almosts. You weren't supposed to know, Yibo said, voice rough as gravel. I know your soul when I see it, Zhan replied. Yibo's laugh cracked in the middle, half sob, half relief. He crossed the room in 3 strides and pulled Zhan into his arms. They held each other like survivors of separate shipwrecks finally washed ashore on the same island. Zhan's face buried in Yibo's neck, breathing in the scent of winter air and the faint leather of motorcycle jackets. I wanted them to have what we didn't, Yibo whispered against his hair. A place where dreams don't have to hide in margins. Zhan pulled back just enough to look at him. You gave them the sky. The leaf in Zhan's wallet turned translucent with time, veins glowing like gold thread under the light of countless hotel lamps. 2 years slipped by, quiet ones, stitched together with late-night voice notes, encrypted texts, and the occasional midnight flight that left one of them asleep on a stranger's couch in a city neither called home. They learned the choreography of distance. How to say I miss you in a single emoji, how to hide longing behind schedules packed tighter than airport security. But Chongqing never forgot. The lawn library became legend. Tourists trickled in, fans with pastel hair and untamed phone cases, asking to see the plaque, the piano, the corner where someone swore they'd spotted 2 silhouettes in the dark. The staff grew adept at gentle deflections. It's just a donor who loves children. Yet every spring, on the anniversary of the donation, a new origami crane appeared on the piano lid. No one saw who left it. The girl with braids, now 15, voice deepening into something confident, kept a private blog titled Letters to Lawn. She posted photos of the cranes, the wishes, the way the light hit the blue shelves at 4:17 p.m. exactly. The internet called it wholesome. Only she knew the cranes smelled faintly of motorcycle leather and wintergreen gum. Yibo read every entry. He bookmarked them in a folder labeled Research. Zhan caught him once, at 3 a.m. in a Tokyo hotel, eyes bloodshot from screens and jet lag. You're obsessed, Zhan teased, sliding into the chair beside him. I'm invested, Yibo corrected. There's a difference. The difference was this. Yibo had started wiring smaller amounts every 6 months, never enough to raise flags, always under pseudonyms that made the bursar laugh. Hanguang, Yiling, once even Baiken with a winking emoji in the memo line. The money-bought tablets for the computer lab, art supplies that didn't crumble in humid summers, scholarships for 3 kids whose parents cleaned office buildings at night. Mrs. Liu kept a ledger in a locked drawer. On the cover, in her neat teacher script, The quiet fund. Zhan's contribution was less tangible but no less fierce. He began visiting incognito every other month, always on weekdays when the school was in session. He'd sit in the back of the library during study hall, pretending to read while actually watching children discover worlds he'd once escaped into. One afternoon he found a boy, glasses too big, knees scabbed, struggling with a guzheng. The strings kept snapping. Zhan waited until the boy left for recess, then rest-strung the instrument with the spare set he now carried in his backpack like a talisman. The next day, the boy played a shaky but triumphant mo li hua. He told his friends an angel had fixed it. Zhan, hidden behind a shelf of poetry, pressed a fist to his mouth to keep from sobbing aloud. The mind-blowing moment arrived unannounced, as the best ones do. It was Children's Day 2027. The courtyard had been transformed into a carnival of paper lanterns and cotton candy clouds. Students performed skits, dragons made of cardboard, fairies with tinsel wings. The girl with braids, now head of the literature club, had organized a surprise, a shadow puppet retelling of The Untamed, complete with hand-painted silk screens and a soundtrack played live on the guzheng. The audience, parents, teachers, local officials, sat on plastic chairs that creaked in the heat. Yibo was supposed to be in Shanghai, filming a car commercial. Instead, he stood at the back gate in a maintenance jumpsuit 2 sizes too big, cap pulled low, heart hammering against his ribs. He'd bribed the groundskeeper with a signed helmet and a promise of race tickets. Zhan was already inside, disguised as a volunteer photographer, camera hiding half his face. The puppet show began. Lan Wangji's silhouette, tall, rigid, ribbon fluttering, appeared first. Then Wei Wuxian, playful and reckless, dancing around him with a flute made of rolled construction paper. The children's voices narrated in chorus. Asterisk, he loved in silence, but silence can be loud. Yibo's throat closed. Zhan's lens trembled. The climax came when Puppet Wei fell from Yiling Cliff. Puppet Lan reached, arms extended, ribbons snapping in an invisible wind. The screen went dark. A single spotlight hit the guzheng. The boy with glasses played the first notes of Wangxian. Slowly, the Lan puppet rose, carried by unseen hands, dozens of them, children crouched behind the screen lifting him on strings made of red thread. He caught Wei mid-fall. The puppets embraced. The audience erupted. But the real eruption happened off-stage. The girl with braids stepped forward, holding a scroll. "Before we end," she said, voice steady despite the microphone feedback, "we have a tradition. Every year, we read a new letter to Lan. This one arrived yesterday." She unrolled it. The handwriting was unmistakable, bold, elegant, final stroke decisive. Asterisk, to the dreamers of tomorrow. You have built more than a library. You have built hope with paper cranes and broken strings. Keep flying. Lan and W asterisk. Gasps rippled. Phones rose like periscopes. Zhan's camera clicked frantically. Yibo's knees nearly buckled. The principal, tears shining, took the mic. "Children, it seems our mysterious friend has a partner in kindness." That was when the gates creaked open. Yibo stepped into the light. The jumpsuit was gone, replaced by the simple white shirt and black pants he'd worn under it. No mask. No cap. Just him, hair tousled by the wind, eyes red but steady. The courtyard fell into a hush so complete you could hear the cotton candy machine hiss. Zhan lowered his camera. Their eyes met across the sea of children. 5 meters, 5 years, 5 lifetimes. The girl with braids was the first to move. She walked straight to Yibo, scroll clutched like a baton, and bowed deeply. "Thank you," she said. "For the sky." Yibo knelt so they were eye level. "Thank you for using it." Behind her, the boy with glasses approached Zhan, guzheng strapped to his back like a warrior's sword. "Did you fix my strings?" he whispered. Zhan's smile wobbled. "Maybe." The dam broke. Children swarmed, some shy, some bold, offering drawings, bracelets woven from embroidery floss, a single peony plucked from the garden. Parents filmed. Teachers wept. Someone started clapping, and soon the courtyard thundered with it. Later, when the sun dipped low and the lanterns glowed like captive moons, Yibo and Zhan stood on the library steps. The children had been corralled for cake. The adults pretended not to watch. You planned this, Zhan accused, voice thick. I improvised, Yibo countered. The letter was your idea. They'd written it together in a Guangzhou hotel at 2 a.m., passing the paper back and forth like a peace treaty. Lan and W. The ampersand a bridge neither had dared cross publicly until now. Zhan looked out at the courtyard. A little girl was teaching Yibo how to fold a crane one-handed. He was terrible at it. The paper kept tearing. She giggled. He laughed, the full, unguarded sound Zhan hadn't heard since 2019. Think they'll hate us tomorrow? Zhan asked quietly. When the headlines hit? Yibo considered. Some will. Most won't. And the ones who matter, he nodded toward the children, already know what kindness looks like. Night settled. The carnival packed up. The last lantern flickered out. Yibo and Zhan stayed behind to help stack chairs, an unspoken agreement to delay the inevitable media storm. When the courtyard was empty, they slipped into the library.